Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 364, Presentations by Zia, now showing, recorded for Friday, July 18th, 2025. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Tyler Colt.
And I'm Greg Belnap, and let's get right on into the show.
Let us do it. A top tier title from Freddie, a little alliteration there too. Thanks for joining, Greg. I'm liking the orange. I was feeling a little sleepy this morning, and when you came into the screen share and I saw those bright colors, it kind of jolted me awake. So now I'm ready to go. So I do appreciate it.
It's because my wife and I went and saw the new Superman movie last night, and so I'm just like, I need my own costume. I need my own super suit.
I like it. I heard it's good. I'm normally not a Superman guy, but I've actually heard it's enjoyable.
It was very fun. So I recommend it.
Very cool. All righty. So we do have a pretty busy week. So with that, let us jump right on into the news. All right. So we got a lot of Q2 updates. You know what that means. These are big, long articles that go over everything from the last quarter. A lot of these things actually were not really always covered by us. Some of them were, some of them weren't. We're going to start with Zoho projects. So this is for Q2. Couple updates here. Importing from Jira. Nice one to have, especially if you're migrating. People do also kind of integrate these sometimes where maybe a project is managing the big picture and then Jira is handling sprints within that. Scheduled exports of tasks. So these can go out daily, weekly, monthly. Lookup fields. So custom lookup fields on a task layout. That's kind of a big one. Main way that people use this is like you might have that default owner field for kind of like the main user working on something. But let's say for certain types of tasks, they need to be reviewed by a lawyer, right? So you could add a custom lookup field that's going to point to the lawyer on your team, right? Who needs to look at those things. Relative date ranges. Again, sometimes we get these updates. Man, I sure thought that was in there already. This one was not. So relative date is basically saying, hey, show me tasks where the due date is 3 days before now or 5 days after now. So within some type of like 8-day window. They also renamed client companies to customers. Sure. That's all good. New sync preferences for books and invoice, covering the ability to see them more clearly across tasks, issues, etc. So you're kind of syncing more specific fields. Existing tasks into workload reports. This is actually a nice one. So when you're inside of a particular task, one that already exists, you can see those inside of the workload manager and actually move them to somebody else. So the nice thing there, really the goal of that is like you might have different specialists on the team. Like imagine for Zenatta, right? We might have someone like Alex on our development team who's just phenomenal in Zoho Creator. We might go into the workload report, filter for tasks related to Zoho Creator and go, hey, Alex has some free time. Let's bump more of those over to him because he's really good at them, right? So what you used to have to do is you'd see it on the workload report, then you'd go into those tasks and move them separately, where now you can just do it from right in there.
Right there.
Color palette for statuses. Why not? There's a lot more of them. They can look more different. One piece of feedback I've actually got from clients before on the task colors is like, you've got maybe 12 or so that you can use, maybe a couple more than 12. Yep, more than 12, more like 20. A lot of them are kind of similar. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see like you've got teal, you've got other teal, right? So like at a glance, these three colors might look a little similar to each other. Or you've got purple, you've got purplish blue, you've got maroon, you've got slightly darker blue. So again, at a glance, easy to get confused. Now they have more of these traditional color pickers, right? The gradient for each tone. And then specifically, it looks like they've got like the full expanded, the color picker there for the hex codes.
Yeah.
New profiles and permissions UI. This is nice. This used to be in this like little, you'd go in, right? And you'd pick the profile and then like just the right-hand quarter of your screen would contain all of these profile settings.
That's right.
I don't know how much you've played at those specifically, Greg, but like it would pop out this little tiny side panel, and it's like, dude, there's a lot of permissions in here to like fit them into this small UI. So make it full screen, right? Why not? A little bit easier move. So overall, good round of updates there from the projects team. Some big ones, some minor ones, but definitely an application that just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, adding a lot of nice polish.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe this one. A lot of this stuff is kind of polished things. The main functional one is the new lookup fields, which is actually something I've like bumped into before. So happy to see that getting added. Next one here, a quick story from the world of Zoho Show. We don't talk about this one too much. This is Zoho's version of, like a PowerPoint, a presentation generator. I am highlighting this one because it is kind of cool. So they now have Zia AI inside of Zoho Show. Core idea here being that you could actually get a first draft of your presentation created using just a Zia AI prompt. So they kind of go through an example here, right? And again, you're able to add more slides, whether it's manually or via prompts after the fact. I do like that. One like piece of feedback we've gotten on, Zoho Co-Creator, little creator tool where it makes an app for you, is it's one shot, right? From there on out, like you're on your own, man.
Yeah. If you don't like it, you got to make a new app.
Yeah, just start completely over. In this case, you can actually have it add new slides after the fact. So if you're like, hey, you missed this one topic, it can do some image generation as well. That's kind of cool. So if you want a really ominous, very smooth looking stock images of some people gathered around a laptop, you can add that now.
Yeah.
That sometimes these just look, this lady's smile, if you're watching us on YouTube,
it's a little too wide.
I gotta look one more time. We're gonna get nice and zoomed in for this. Yeah, I don't like that. Something just doesn't look right about that. Anyways, you could do it. Just be aware. It might creep out people like me. And then you can also, like, if you wrote a slide yourself, you could say, hey, make it better, shorten, summarize, turning things into lists. Really nice suite of updates. I have to actually give them some credit on that for Zoho Show.
Yeah. I use Zoho Show every week.
You do actually.
For our little internal quizzes that I run for our teams, as I'm making sure everybody's up to date on the latest Zoho news. So this is and as with this is one of the really good uses of GPT, I think, because stuff like putting together a slide presentation, it always just stinks having to start from the blank canvas. Yep. And you're just like, I don't even know, it's easier if you get something that can spit something out and then you can adjust it.
Yeah.
Rather than having to start totally from scratch. It's being able to see something and then want something different is a way to get those creative juices flowing. So
absolutely.
Big kudos here.
And the one thing that's cool with this, I could see in like a future state. So you might be saying like, okay, well, I'm sure PowerPoint is going to have some Copilot tool that can do this same type of thing. Mm-hmm. One of the interesting things, though, that kind of buzzes in my head is, you remember how in Zoho Show, you can embed reports or dashboards or chart elements from Zoho Analytics?
Yes.
Not saying this does this now, but I could imagine a future version of this that could maybe like see if there's some data and analytics that might be useful in your presentation and kind of serve that up too. Like, hey, you're talking about improvements that we made to the deal process. Let's put in a graph of closing rates over time, right? Like I could actually see like an interesting little like integrated value there. Like if you have some of your reporting in Zoho, you can make this presentation in Zoho. Maybe it could pull from that. I don't think this version does that right now.
No.
But I could definitely see that, right, as something that could be available in the future that
would be
would
really
actually make
good
me
next
consider doing it in here. And I'll tell you, I forget what I needed a set of slides for. I tried to have GPT make them. It was for a personal thing. It was kind of like a bit at a get together we were doing. It was a god awful. It was so bad. Like it did make me a PowerPoint. Like everything was just black Arial font on a white background.
It just made you like a series of like just images that were slides.
No, it was slides and it was text. Like you could edit it. But like things weren't centered and like it was just very wonky looking to where I kind of just tossed it. So, this could actually be better than that. Maybe for my next, fake presentation for a get together, I'll try this out. Next one up here, Bigin, Q2 updates for Bigin. A lot of these I think we did cover. So they now have this really nice QuickBooks Online integration for Bigin that looks a lot better than the one that's available for the full CRM. Maybe copy paste that over. They integrated lead chain and oft forgotten application inside of Zoho, which basically manages all of your paid advertising, right? Bringing all of that in with UTM tracking, etc. We've also got Bigin email in. This essentially brings in emails, kind of like a fancy version of a parser. Brings in an email, creates a record inside of a pipeline. This could be useful for like a sales@zenatta.com, right? And I just want to convert anything there into a record. They added that product subform, kind of nice, added discounting to those, better automations. We covered those, more business phone integration. So yeah, busy quarter for Bigin. Some of these make sense. Some of them, again, a little confusing. Like if our CRM is supposed to be super lightweight, why is it integrated with our accounting tool? Kind of adds a bit of a question mark there. But overall, nice suite of updates.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it does make sense, though, that they would work on making QuickBooks kind of a nicer integration here, because if you're using Bigin, again, you like kind of the lightweight version of it, and QuickBooks has a lot more features like straight out of the box than say a Zoho Books might, without like maybe some like automations or customizations built in. And so it kind of makes sense that they'd be like, well, people who use Bigin are more likely to use QuickBooks with Bigin than Zoho Books. Yeah. Maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah, I bet you're right. Like I would imagine if you looked at like Zoho's user base and you saw there are those who use Bigin and those that use CRM, primarily for their CRM. Mm-hmm. Which one of those groups is more likely to use books and inventory? Right? Probably the CRM users, like you're saying. They're probably the ones that are more likely to be on Zoho One, kind of building out the whole ecosystem. So that's a good point. I can see what you're saying there. Next one, this is really cool. This is for Zoho WorkDrive. This is a new feature in there that they're calling Zia Hubs. So we're going to have to explain this one. It's a little interesting. So basically, the premise of Zia Hubs is you've got a bunch of stuff inside of WorkDrive. Some of these could be specific to a department. Some of these could be like HR policy documents. And their argument is you've got it in there. It's pretty unstructured. It's not always easy to find stuff, which is true. I mean, I struggle to find things in every app that I look at. And basically their argument is, hey, take that content, organize it into what they're going to call a hub. So in this case, again, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see, hey, we've got this HR hub. And in there, we've got travel policies, payroll policies, code of conduct, employee benefits, right? And when I put this into the hub, all of the sudden, I now have a Zia LLM chat interface that I can ask questions about the things that are in there. Really cool. I mean, Greg, some of the things I've been working on with like internal knowledge-based stuff and being able to query them with LLM. Like this kind of does that to a degree. Like a big thing we always think about internally is, sharing a bit of how the sausage gets made. Is like, for a company, you have all this knowledge, right? General, just knowledge.
Yeah.
And you want your employees to have access to that knowledge easily. The problem is, especially for a company like ours, where knowledge is our product, we have a lot of it and we write a lot of it down. And what that ends up meaning is that you could have hundreds of documents about best practices for this, best practices for that. Here's a code snippet. Here's this. And it gets pretty difficult to like deliver that information to a person who's looking at it. So here again, like you're able to create these different spaces or hubs, put stuff in them, and then a user can just ask questions via an LLM. It's going to give you answers, and then kudos to you, Zoho, put the source, right? So if I do want to go actually look at the document, I can. It's there.
Which is probably advisable.
Yeah, I mean, double check it, right? But again, even if this is just a really good search tool that gives you a summary and then a way to look closely at the source that the summary came from, awesome, right? Like, I think that's pretty cool. I definitely see a big use case for this. Interesting for me, like the one challenge for us in terms of adopting this, and we've talked about this a lot, is a lot of our knowledge is in Learn, because it's more of a space where we can like organize and assign the knowledge to different people. I'd love to see this get brought into Zoho Learn, but really cool to see it in WorkDrive regardless.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that that I'm thinking about is if you have the one because you create a hub and then you put a bunch of files into that hub. We do now have a little bit of it because I assume that you're actually having to put copies of the files into that hub. You're not just like going into your WorkDrive and assigning, hey, this file should be included in
I think
this Zia's hub.
It seems to me almost like the hub is like its own team folder. Like looking at the
little bucket.
No, it does say sources. Like, so do you associate a file as a source? I'm not sure. It's a good question. It seems like you'd have to move it in though.
Yeah, because that's the only thing that's making me question the efficiency of this. Is that because then it's like, so if you do have to copy stuff over, then you would have to, as files go into your regular WorkDrive, you'd want to almost like change your structure to put stuff directly into the Zia hub first, so that it has the most up-to-date stuff. You'd have to have copies of the same file if one file pertained to like 3 different hubs, right?
Yeah, good point.
If you had like a spreadsheet that tracked both sales figures and marketing figures, you'd have to have that same file copied into the marketing hub. And sorry, those words just kind of
that's a deep cut for long-time Zoho nerds. Backstory: Zoho used to call marketing automation Marketing Hub, which is the same thing HubSpot calls their marketing tool. There was a lawsuit, there was a settlement. So, everyone, you misheard Greg. He didn't say that. Yeah.
Marketing Zia Hub and the Sales Zia Hub. So the preferable way would be to be able to, inside of your WorkDrive, just kind of associate one file to different hubs and say like, hey, Sales Hub, you can take a look at this file for your, searching calculations. So that's where I hope this ends up being at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I see like it says to add items, drag and drop them below. So it looks like an upload. And then the question is, can you take a team folder and make it a hub, right? Because that might at least allow, but that idea of a document needs to be in multiple. It does get a little bit funky, right? Where you do kind of want to do like a source rather than an upload. But overall, I do think it's cool, and even if you don't move everything over to this, there might be certain things that you do, right? And really cool. I always like the idea of like when you have this type of data, like stuff in documents, AI is a great solution to read and summarize that.
It's so nice that it's able to that you're allowed to like basically set the parameters of the knowledge base for your particular LLM there, right? This is like saying like, hey, don't look anywhere else. Don't randomly grab something from even just another one of our folders. But just look at these files and tell me what you can glean from just these files.
Yep. Absolutely. Next one here to wrap out the news. There's a bit of a follow-up. They put out one article, I think it was last week, and then they did a follow-up article this week around real-time document commenting and collaboration in Zoho Sign. So last time, if you remember, similar story, the ability to request these edits and, everything. And Greg and I are kind of trying to figure out, like, well, is this like editing before I send it out, or is this editing during the sign request process? Like, I've sent it, someone says, hey, all looks good, but could you add, this language here? So you can, in fact, make that edit after it's already been sent. My thought here is that if you did upload it as a PDF, you might be stuck, right? Because you can't just go into an editor and change that. If you did upload it as like a docx or a writer document, we'll click through to this other article here. It seems like, someone could go in, they could leave you a comment saying, hey, could you add this here? Then I could get notified about that comment, right, as the document owner. And I can actually go in and adjust the document itself, right? So I can make a change to this doc after it's been sent, and then they can sign that, edited version at their discretion. So this actually allows you to get around the issue of like any edit requires a full recall and resend. It's also really nice for like automated processes, right? Because like you might have that request ID stored somewhere, and now you need to update your code to also be able to like remove and re-add a new request ID rather than just like, hey, we go by Zenatta Consulting LLC, not Zenatta Consulting. And it's like, oh, great. I got to like recall and resend this whole document just to add LLC into the name of the contract. So nice update. Personally, selfishly, I'll admit it, as someone who deals with a lot of client contracts for us, I'm really excited for this because like it's not rare that we get a client that wants some small adjustment that's totally reasonable to the language of the contract. And this just saves me like 5 clicks that I don't have to do anymore. So I'm happy about this one, if you can't tell.
Yeah. And I'm very happy to find out that I had misunderstood the previous story. This is a much better state of things.
Oh, yeah. And it makes customers happy. Like, we actually got a piece of feedback from someone who ended up becoming a client. It was great feedback that she's like, man, like, you guys' process is really good. It's kind of annoying that like I have to email you any little changes that I want to the contract, where like in a lot of tools, I could just leave you a comment right on it and then you could just change it. And it's like, yeah, that would definitely be better. So she'll be happy. We now can do that. Theirs is already done, so it won't help them. But yeah, it was feedback that it was only like 6 weeks ago or something. And I'm like, man, that would be really great if it worked that way. And now it does. So I am happy. Good job, Zoho. You made me a very happy camper. All right. I think with that, we've wrapped out the news. As always, there were a lot of stories that we didn't fit into the show this week. More minor things, some around Backstage, a couple other of like the Q2 updates. If you want that news every single Monday morning, complete and unfiltered, go ahead and sign up for our newsletter over at zenatta.com/newsletter. We send it out every Monday morning. Then you don't have to hear me ramble about it. We'd still love to have you join, but if you're sick of me, you can go ahead and subscribe. With that, I think we're ready to jump on over to Club Z and check out our code share of the week. All right, we're doubling up this week. We've got one from Alex, one of our senior developers, and another from Zolt, one of our longtime participants over in Club Zenatta. So let's start with Alex's here. Greg, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so Alex here is showing you how you can create a bulk update inside of a scheduled function in the CRM and ensure that you don't run into a timeout issue. So for most Deluge scripts, you have a time limit of 5 minutes. In scheduled functions, it's actually more. You get up to 15 minutes.
I had no idea that was the case.
I also did not know when we started the show, but then I verified.
Shout out to Alex. I didn't know that.
Yes. So a scheduled function, you're probably trying to if you're trying to sync, say information from a third party application, and you're trying to pull it all in and update your CRM records with all that info. You want to make sure that you don't run past that 15 minutes, because otherwise you're going to get an error, and then your job will be stopped halfway through, and you won't know where it failed or that kind of thing. You want to be able to just kind of pick up where you left off. And so what his function here is doing is at the beginning of the function, you get the current start time, or sorry, not the current start time, but just you get the current time at the first line of the function. So that way you effectively stamp, when did I start this function? Then you get all your records from your custom view. And then a nice little trick in there of how to simulate creating 100 iterations of a loop, rather than having to create one variable and manually typing in the numbers 1 through 100 into a list so that you could run something up to 100 times. So then through each loop, you get as many records as you can from that custom view ID. The max of 200 is what you can get from the get records. You could also switch this to a COQL and get up to 2,000 records in a single pull if you wanted to go that route. Then you do whatever it is that you're going to do in your function in here. Alex is just adding some has this been updated? Has it not been updated? So he's kind of marking that. That's the so I believe in this case that's how he's kicking things out of that custom view. Is that after you update it, you mark a little checkbox saying this has been updated. So now it no longer shows up in the custom view. So the next time the scheduled function runs, 2 hours later, it'll grab unprocessed records, right?
Yeah.
Then what you do is, before you try to run the update, because the update takes a little bit of time to do, before you actually run the update, you check how long has my function been running. And it checks to make sure that it has been less than 14 minutes, to give yourself a little bit of a buffer. So if it's been less than 14 minutes, let's go ahead and perform the update. If it has been 14 minutes, I've only got less than a minute left, I shouldn't risk it, and I shouldn't run this bulk update, because otherwise it could just crap out in the middle. And so then we just break out. Otherwise, if you manage to get through all the records in your custom view, voila, you've done it. Nice. But the nice thing is it also gives you some info statements here saying that it stopped due to the timeout at, say, 14 minutes and 30 seconds, right?
Got it. This is a really cool one. I had no idea that you had a 14-minute execution period. Without going too far down the rabbit hole, most of the time when I see something on these code shares, I pretty much follow along. I get everything that they're doing. What is this left pad to list for the loop? So he's taking an empty string. He's left padding 100 spaces into it, and he's doing a to list on a space. Is that what this is? So each null is separated. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the to list function, if your string the to list function, if you don't put in any arguments, will try to guess what your delimiter is. So first the to list checks if your thing has commas. If it has commas, it's okay, that's it. That's my delimiter. If it doesn't, then it will just take each individual character in your string and make that an element of the list. So yes, you take 100 spaces, and then you say turn this into a list.
Space is not a nothing. That's kind of the key.
Space is not a nothing.
Space is not nothing. It's not null. It is a thing. It is just a space.
That's right.
That's really clever, because I've done some funky stuff. I've typed out lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to create a list parameter. This is a lot smarter than that. So I'm gonna back pocket this one. Always with these code shares, there's the code share as a whole, but then sometimes there's those little specific clever things that someone on our team sorted out that you can use that independently. So take a look at that. I think that's a very clever way to create some sequence of lists to iterate on.
Yeah.
Next one here from Zolt. This is a longtime Club Z participant. He, and I say this with admiration, this is not an insult, he banged his head on the keyboard until he could get a custom function to return a response when used in a kiosk. And those who've done a lot of complicated kiosks know that's really useful. And I don't know if we've figured out this workaround before internally, or if we've had a use case too, but this is a really slick one. So he writes up, nice write up here of like everything he tried, that didn't work. And then basically it looks like what he did, Greg, is he put together a standalone function and a query and a kiosk. And it seems like using the query, he calls the function, but the query now can return the response of the function. Is that kind of the core of the workaround here?
Yeah. So effectively, the way that queries work is that it's kind of like a query is like you're setting up like a custom API execution to happen. Usually the point of a query is to to query certain records, right? You can write out the API endpoint URL to say, I want you to pull from the contacts module to get me these types of contacts, right?
Yep.
But you can also enable a standalone function that has a return statement to have basically an API endpoint. So he's kind of hijacking the queries feature here to say, well, instead of just like querying the contacts module or the accounts module, I want you to hit the API endpoint of this custom function. And so the query feature actually does wait for a response, because I believe you can execute a custom function already with a kiosk, but the kiosk doesn't wait to see what the result of that was. It just kind of fires and just goes and does something. But using a query to then hit that custom function endpoint is how you can sort of like force the kiosk, like, now hold up a minute, just slow down and wait like 2 seconds for this thing to finish running so that I can take the information from said function and actually do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So the really nice thing here is that like this way you can, if you wanted to mix I think in his example here, he wants the kiosk to put he wants to use the kiosk for somebody to put in all the information to generate a quote. And then he would like that when you click the button that you can get some kind of because then he had a function that goes and generates the quote based on all that information. But he had no way of passing back to the user like, yes, your quote was successfully made, or no, something went wrong. Your quote couldn't be made for some, reason. And so now he's able to make this standalone function where he makes the quote, and if everything's hunky-dory, just return a good job message back to the user. But he has, error catching in his custom function. Like let's say he got a weird error message back saying like, hey, this item has been marked inactive in books, or this item is out of stock, and the quote I guess he wouldn't need that for quotes, but regardless, if there's an error message, he can now pass that back to the user. So now they know that there's something they still need to do, and not just like, well, I clicked it, I hope it worked.
No, really nice. Big shout out to Zolt. Thank you for sharing this. We will use it. So really appreciate that. And as always, over on Club Zenatta, that is where Zoho nerds help Zoho nerds. Totally free community. So go ahead and sign up there. If you got questions for us, want to share some of your code, we always love to see it. You might be featured on the show. Or just go in there and take a look at the stuff that we share for free. Our goal is always to put out free and useful stuff, and this is one of the places that we do that. So with that, I think we're ready to jump on over to Zenatta.com and check out what's new. All right, Greg, you were busy. This is a long one. So we're kind of doing a couple little experiments this year about some content, kind of comparing Zoho to some of the others. As always, we do try to be as candid as we can. We always have a bit of a bias, obviously. We do like Zoho. I'll admit it. I know, controversial, but essentially, Greg here went through and compared Zoho Desk with Zendesk and HelpDesk, kind of did some of the pros, some of the cons, between them, trying to just help people maybe make a decision or figure out if it's worth exploring something like Zoho Desk. So, Greg, what did you find as you went through the 3 applications?
Yeah. So overall, I'd say that it kind of depends on the load of support tickets that you're needing to use. HelpDesk is definitely the most lightweight of all of them. It does have a very so the interesting thing about HelpDesk is that its interface, it almost feels more like you're interacting with a social media platform. Like your tickets look like posts, and when you're drafting the reply to the ticket, you're in like one of those kind of like post boxes, like you were leaving a comment on, Facebook or Club Zenatta. It has kind of that same feel to it. And the one thing about the help desk is you pretty much only have email and chat bots, or not bots, but chat windows that you embed on your website. Those are the only channels that you've got. So if that's all you need, that's great. Zendesk, obviously a lot more robust, has a lot more channels. Some of the interesting things about Zendesk that I noted were Zendesk is really nice at handling, if you're somebody who juggles 4 tickets at the same time, they have this nice kind of tabular view where every time you open a ticket, it just kind of opens up a little tab inside of your Zendesk. Similar to any of our Zoho Analytics users. You know that every time you open a data table or a report in Zoho Analytics, it just kind of keeps them all as tabs that you can kind of switch back and forth between without leaving the window. And so Zendesk operates the same way with its tickets. So if you like being able to manage multiple things like that at once, there you go. Zendesk also has a nice kind of they have this play button where the idea is that you have your list and you click on this play button and it'll just kind of help you cycle through your tickets to answer. So it's it has some kind of nice little gamification thing set up to get people to do that. Now, some of the things that I think are huge pros over in Zoho Desk, I really like in Zoho Desk that you have the Kanban views for priority mode or due date mode, that kind of a thing. Whereas in both Zendesk and HelpDesk, you basically just have the tabular view for viewing your tickets, and that's it.
Lists
exactly.
Of tickets.
Yeah. The other thing that is impossible to beat in the other applications that Zoho Desk does have is that fact that you have Deluge. So you can do whatever you want in terms of writing, automations or even just building macros and things like that you can execute, or not macros. Technically, there's a custom button that can run a Deluge function. Macro doesn't run a custom function. Got to make sure that people are going to come for me in the comments if I don't get it exactly right.
They are. Got it. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things too. As we're making decisions, we always talk to people on discovery calls around this. Is what of those features are important, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I know in Zendesk, and is a really cool feature, is in their knowledge-based help desk environment, you can fully customize it with HTML and CSS. Make it look however you want. Where in Zoho Desk, you can customize it, maybe not just full control. And, because I've helped people on prospecting calls pick between these two. It's hey, we know we want Zoho CRM, but is Zoho Desk going to work for us? And some of those limitations don't matter, right? It's all good as long as people can get in and see the data. In other cases, they're oh no, we have a really custom thing in the Zendesk Help Center that our clients love. We can't get rid of that. Hey, no hard feelings. But always important as we go through these to figure out look for the benefit and the requirement you have being satisfied, less of like looking for a feature, right?
Yeah.
That is particularly shiny, right? Because you got to make sure you're actually going to use it, right? Like if you're someone who's like, hey, I just want something simple, I'm never going to go in there and write code or pay anyone to write code, then the fact that Zoho has custom functions doesn't really matter to you. And that's okay, you know? So it's always just about figuring out what really matters to you, not just like what's shiny, right?
Exactly.
It's an important distinction.
That does remind me, one other huge pro of Zendesk is that if you are using telephony and texting, Zendesk just has like phone number management. That's all just built in. You do have to purchase credits and everything like that, but I'm in my help desk in Zendesk. I go to my settings. I go to my telephony. I manage my phone numbers in there by credit. So it's all in that application. So if you are heavily reliant on, telephony and text, and you don't already have like a well-established telephony solution and you're looking for one, then Zendesk is really slick in that regard. Whereas with Zoho Desk, you do have to bring your own telephony system, whether that's Zoho Voice or Ring Central, or Twilio for texting, or GoTo, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and also, I mean, again, with the goal of always being candid, text message based ticketing in Zoho Desk is a little funky. It's not really supported natively. Like you can make it do it. To be clear, you can make it do it. You're going to use Zoho Flows to accomplish it. There is no SMS integration, right? Like I think there is technically SMS integration to send a text. I believe some providers support that. None of them, to my knowledge, and please, genuinely, if anyone leaves a comment that I'm wrong on this, I'll be really happy. To my understanding, there's not an SMS provider that exists where I can say, hey, if a text comes into this phone number, make a ticket natively. You can do it with Flow, right? You can catch it, you can run it through, you can do all that. A lot of people don't want to do that in Zoho Flow, which is totally fine. But like my understanding is that that's not really a thing. And I've actually reached out to Zoho before, kind of begging them to do that with Zoho Voice. Because I told them like, hey, you want to sell a bunch of Zoho Voice phone numbers? Do that. Because like people ask for this, and then you could be the best option to do it. But my understanding is that that's not a thing in Desk, which like while they have a lot of WhatsApp and business messaging, here in the US, man, we text still. Like we're the laggards on that. But the rest of the world is moving on, but we still use text. So I'd be interested to see if anyone says I'm wrong, and I'll be really happy if I am. But I don't think it's really a thing in Desk right now.
No, I don't believe so. Yeah, the focus is much more on, the instant messaging apps like WhatsApp or WeChat. That most of the world uses and is very happy with.
Yep. All righty. So yeah, that's our write-up here. Of course, full video over on YouTube as well. So make sure to check that out. Talking about YouTube, we do have one more tip that we rolled out this most recent week. So let's head over to YouTube and see what's new there. All righty. So this is one that I had recorded a version of this a long time ago, but a lot of things have changed. So I thought I would go back through and kind of update it here. This is a walkthrough of the Zoho One admin panel, kind of highlighting what an administrator of Zoho One needs to know. Adding applications, applying users. One of the best tips in here that we use a lot internally and our clients love when we show this to them is the ability to set up groups. I'm trying to find a little snapshot here. There we go. A point that I try to highlight a lot in here is that, like, as a software administrator, a big part of your job is to make your own job easy, because if your job is easy, the administration will be better for the users. So a really big example of that is like, hey, set up a group, right? If you have a team, a support team, they probably all need the same permissions in the same applications. So you can go in here, set up a group, and then when you onboard a user, you just put them in the group, right? Because, for me, I always joke around with this. It's half a joke and it's half true. I can be kind of forgetful. And like, if I'm going through and I'm adding the applications for a consultant, 1 out of 20 times I'm going to miss something, right? I'm not going to add them to desk. I'm not going to add them to analytics, right? That's probably the one that would get me. And so you can set up groups to do that, right? So we kind of run through all those different things. Another big one, I actually clicked to it perfectly. I actually got a comment on this from someone that loved this one, is did you know that you can actually disable your users from accidentally creating trial accounts for applications that you've not assigned them yet? This is a big pain in the butt.
It's about time.
Yeah, no, this has actually been here for a while. That's what's crazy.
It has?
You can actually basically deny them the ability once they've been added to Zoho 1 to sign up for a trial of something else. There are certain applications that this has historically been a pain in the butt for. Campaigns, Zoho Survey, those are big offenders. Where someone's like, go ahead.
I said even just CRM. People do it with CRM all the time.
Yeah, it just happens. And like in some cases, you can go in and delete that organization easily. In other cases, inexplicably, you cannot. And you need to put in a ticket and wait for it to get done. And Zoho normally does it quickly, but it can still be 2 days or a day, right? And like, or you just go in here and don't let them do that, right? Like, hey, if they go to an app that they don't have, they can easily send you a message and say, hey, I want survey. And you'll go, great, here it is. But just makes it a lot easier to administer. So big goal here is like, if you are the person at your company who's responsible for Zoho 1 admin, this is worth the time to watch, I think, but I'm obviously biased. Take a look if you think it is interesting. And while you're over there, head on over to our page and check out really all the videos that we've got. We put out a handful of them every single week. The podcast, the tip videos, everything goes up over here at youtube.com/Zenatta. Make sure to subscribe if you like our content. We will keep making it, I promise.
You know, I assume that the user group, denial thing, that's only for, you can only do that for people that are in your domain, right? Like I can't just.
They have to have been added to Zoho 1. So not just a domain, added to Zoho 1.
So I can't just put in like a random person's email and say that person is only allowed to join my organization or nothing.
Yeah, that is not allowed. Okay. Yeah, that would go into the not allowed category. But for the people that are in your org, which is who you should have these rights over, you can surely do that. Alrighty, well, we are getting to the end of the show, but we do have a question of the week, so let's run our Azaz intro and get that answered. All week, I just look forward to the air guitar that Greg does every time on that little riff. So, John Bloomfield, longtime community member, asks a question here. Does anyone come up with a simple way to mail merge notes, like the CRM notes, into a writer document? So something they're looking at for audit trail, basically a deal closes, all the notes get merged, and then that's saved as a PDF to a particular WorkDrive folder. They're Bloomfield Financial, so I'd assume kind of like auditing compliance stuff, right? You need to be pretty tight on your record keeping in certain industries. And like, hypothetically, someone could delete a note later and it's like, right? We don't have this anymore. So yeah, he mentions the only way he's thought about doing this is bringing it to a spreadsheet, using that as a data source, but like doing that every time a deal closes, a bit of a pain in the butt. John, no way to do this with like the normal merge. You can't really set it up in the template, but you could surely do it, right? I think what you'd be looking at here is essentially creating a writer template. So I think outside of CRM mail merge completely. And then you're going to do this with a deluge function. So I don't know that it satisfies simple way, just because it is going to require some deluge. But Greg, like if we have a deal record and we trigger an automation, we could get that deal ID. We could use an API call to get the related notes. We could sort them by creation date, whatever it may be. And we could surely put that into like a repeating block or a table inside of a mail merge document.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, so not a simple, implementation of said solution, but once you get that code in place, then it can just be a simple button click. You're just going to have to, you are going to have to use just like you said, use the writer APIs rather than the CRM merge APIs to create a writer template, grab the data, sort the data yourself, pass it in to
maybe filter the data. I don't know how tight your team is about what goes into a note, but I guess this is internal, right? This isn't going to the client, so it should be fine.
And you could also add any filtering that you want in the deluge code itself as well.
Yep. And now for context, when we say this isn't simple, that just means it's not like a native thing. This isn't a crazy piece of code to implement, right? I mean, it's just getting a list, putting it into a document. So nothing crazy. Depending on your level of deluge comfort, a couple hours of work at most. And then, of course, part 2 is like take that file, get some type of WorkDrive file ID and put it in there. But again, that's pretty straightforward as well, as long as you're comfortable with deluge and the general Zoho REST API structure. But definitely doable. Just needs a little TLC and someone who knows deluge.
Yep. And hey, if you aren't comfortable with that, we are, and we'd love to help you out.
We're very comfortable with that. Yeah, we do a lot of that. Just saying. No pressure. Just but I think we've actually talked to John before. He's a great guy. I think Josh met with him a while ago, and they had a good conversation. Anyways, I think that's it for the show this week. Thank you all for watching as always, and thank you, Greg, for bringing the bright colors for me. I did actually need it today, but now I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like I'm going to take on the day. With that, as always, if you want to get in touch with any of us over here at Zenatta, just head on over to Zenatta.com and click on book a meeting. We'd love to chat. While you're over there, you can find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today.
And head over to club.zenatta.com to get access to the code shares we talked about, as well as staying up to date on all the latest Zoho and Zenatta events happening. And if you want to get your team trained up with the core Zoho apps in less than a week, head over to zenatta.com/training today.
And as always, we appreciate when you like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We will see you next Friday.
The CRM Zen Show was produced by Podcaster Zen.
I still, Greg, every week have to consciously think about how I say podcast app. There's just something about podcast app. There's something about it that just gets it.
It's ASMR to me at this point, hearing you say podcast app, so I appreciate it.
As long as you enjoy it, Greg, that's all I need.